Hello everyone. Today I will be discussing to you this structural functionalism theory. But first, allow me to introduce myself. I am Maria Levia del Haro, your reporter. So let us know who created this theory. Structural functionalism was created by Emil Durkheim, and it's really an interesting theory. Essentially, what this theory does is it views just like what a clock, a car, or a living cell has. Now, what I mean by this is, just like every person in society, at least according to this theory, has a specific job and role. And they need to do that for everything to work, and all these individual people that live in the society work together whether they realize it or not. That's how similar to a clock, in a car, or in a cell, that just like these things, we have different parts or structures and unique functions that would help us to survive or work. In addition, this theory understands human behavior as part of systems that help keep society organized and functioning. Gender, from this perspective, becomes a way of organizing society with particular functions assigned to each gender that complement one another. And its significance is that it places a large emphasis on how these structures are the main importance to a social interactions and how they bring happiness to a community, creating a positive function in society. So an example for this is just like an education's purpose and job demands. So as various jobs became vacant, they must be filled with the appropriate people. Therefore, the purpose of education is to sort and rank individuals for placement in this labor market. Those with high achievement will be trained for the most important jobs and in reward be given the highest incomes. Those who achieve the least will be given the least demanding jobs and hence the least income. This will also encourage people to be competitive in life. So I hope you understand, and that would be all. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Pierre and I'm here to talk about conflict theory. So conflict theory claims that societal issues arise when dominant groups abuse inferior groups, and hence argues for gender equality. According to conflict theory, society is defined as the social groupings competing for finite resources in a battle for domination. Conflict theory believes that gender is best understood as males striving to retain power and privilege at the expense of women in the framework of gender. As a result, males are the dominating group while women are the subservient group. While some gender roles may have been suitable in a hunter-gatherer culture, conflict theorists say that these roles only exist because the dominant groups tries to retain its power and position. Social issues arise when dominant groups exploit or oppress inferior groups according to conflict theory. As a result, their approach is normative in that it recommends reform to the power system and advocates for gender equality. Men have been historically owned the majority of the world's resources in most societies. Women in Western civilization could not vote or own property until recently, leaving them completely reliant on males. Men, like any other groups with a disproportionate amount of power and riches, battled to keep control of resources, in this case, political and economic power. Conflict between the two factions was responsible for societal transformation, such as the women's suffrage movement. A German sociologist named Friedrich Engels examined family structure and gender roles from a Marxist perspective. The same owner-worker relationship observed in the working sector, according to Engels, might be replicated in the home, with women taking on the role on the proletariat. This was owing to women's reliance on males for wage generation. Women gain influence in the family structure and develop more democratic arrangement in the home according to contemporary conflict theorists, when they become wage earners even though they still bear the bulk of the domestic load.
Hi guys, my name is Aimee Abel Blanti, BS Psychology 2, and I am here to discuss the symbolic interactionism. The symbolic interaction perspective, also called symbolic interactionism, is a major framework of the sociological theory. This perspective relies on the symbolic meaning that people develop and build upon in the process of social interaction. Although symbolic interactionism traces its origin to Max Weber's assertion that individuals act according to their interpretation of the meaning of the world, the American philosopher George Herbert introduced this perspective to American sociology in the 1920s. Symbolic interaction theories analyzes society by addressing the subjective meaning that people impose on objectives, events, and behaviors. Subjective meanings are given primacy because it is believed that people behave based on what they believe and not just on what is objectively true. Society is thought to be socially constructed through human interpretation. People interpret one another's behavior, and it is this interpretation that forms the social bond. These interpretations are called the definition of situation. For example, you walk into a bank hoping to get a small loan for school, a home, or a small business venture. If you meet with a male loan officer, you may state your case logically by listing all the hard numbers that make you a qualified applicant as a means of appealing to the practical, analytical characteristic associated with masculinity. If you meet a female loan officer, you may make an emotional appeal by stating your good intentions as a means of appealing to the empathetic, nurturing characteristic associated with femininity. Because the meaning attached to symbols are socially created and not natural and fluid, not static, we act and react to symbols based on the current assigned meaning. In other words, both gender and sexuality are socially constructed. The social construction or sexuality refers to the way in which socially created definition about the cultural appropriateness to sex-linked behavior shape the way people see and experience sexuality. This is in marked contrast to theories of sex, gender, and sexuality that link male and female behaviors to biological determinism, or the belief that men and women behave differently due to differences in their biology. And that will be all. Thank you, and I hope you learned something new.
Feminist theory is a type of critical sociology that examines inequalities and gender-related issues. This theory focuses on analyzing gender inequality themes. Themes explored in feminism include discrimination, sexual objectification, oppression, patriarchy, stereotyping, and aesthetic feminist. Feminism advocates the elimination of gender stratification, expanding choices that women, men, and other genders are allowed to make. They are ending gender-based violence and promoting sexual freedom. 3 significant schools of thought within feminists. The first is liberal feminism that seeks to expand the rights and opportunities of women by removing cultural and legal barriers to women's inequality, like implementing policies that prevent discrimination in the workforce or improve reproductive freedom. This is in contrast to the second schools of thought, socialist feminism that views capitalism as the foundation of the patriarchy and advocates for full economic equality in the socialist tradition. Socialist feminism tend to believe that liberal feminist reforms don't go far enough since they maintain most of the existing institutions of power. The third feminist school of thought is radical feminism. believes that to reach the gender inequality, society must eliminate gender as we know it. Ecofeminism is against other subset, particularly on transgender individual rights. Several radical feminists refuse to acknowledge gender identities and have accused the transgender movement of perpetuating patriarchal gender norms. These three ways of thinking about feminism are only a few of the many views on best advocating for gender inequality.